Okay, so I have 11:45 on my clock. I want to make sure that we're honoring the time allotted. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We've got a few people here. I'm going to try to monitor the chat. So if you've got any questions as we go through, it's a little bit hard to do it sometimes. But so please have patience with me if I'm trying to monitor the chat as well as the individual screen. I'm going to pin just myself here to the corner of the screen. I find that that's easy for me to kind of monitor what's happening. So I want to thank North Central for hosting and all of the work that went into this great conference. So obviously, this is a brave new world that we're working in. And kudos to ACCA and also to North Central for adapting to this new venue. So my talk today is assessing motivation in introductory college biology for improved student success. So I also want to get into, and as my abstract outlined, I'll also talk about motivational interviewing a little bit, and how that has, how we incorporate that into our introductory college biology class. So this is my outline for today, probably focused on the biggest pedagogy challenge of my recent career. I've been teaching for college biology for about 5 years. And what's come to my forefront is, who am I teaching? So I'm deploying all types of active learning strategies, integrating the best practices into the classroom, and sometimes it just falls flat. And it's come to my thought is, I'm not sure who I'm reaching or who I'm trying to reach. And so if I don't know who I'm trying to reach and what they're bringing to the table, some of what I'm deploying is simply will not land in the way that I anticipate it will landing. So getting away from the assumptions of who is in front of me and trying to look at what are they bringing to the table, what is important to them, and how to reach and meet them at the level that they're interested in. So giving a little bit of background, the research design, getting into some results, conclusions, and then giving plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So Aurora University is primarily an undergraduate institution and recently designated as a Hispanic serving institution. So the target population for this study is introductory college biology students and a couple different categories. So one is a pre-professional program. So if you attended the conference last year, you learned from Dr. Rodriguez Estrada that we have built a course that is more a case-based study for a pre-professional program, specifically the nursing majors. And what that did is it pulled out that population, which is about 2/3 of the population. So what we're finding here in the introductory college biology class is that we're serving about 300 freshmen in this first semester. These are not the AP students. So all of the AP students are able to essentially skip this introductory biology class and head into the next courses in their sequence. So these are the foundational courses, though, for many, many majors. So we have all of the allied health, so the vets and the dentals and the MDs and DOs. We have a lot of the allied health or applied health, so athletic training, exercise science, physical therapy, occupational therapy. We have students in here who are wanting to go on to graduate school in psychology or sociology. And so they need this introductory college biology class with a lab for that track. And then we have the more traditional biologists who could be organismal, could be molecular. And so all of these students are falling into this mixed major course. So as we do with any course, we measure the course by success. So the first metric that I want to present in terms of this mixed major course is a measure of achievement. So who teaches the course and how are we measuring this achievement? Well, it's a mixed majors. And so we have a series of full-time faculty as well as adjuncts that rotate through these multi-section courses. We've done course alignment, our curriculum alignment. And so we are delivering essentially the same content in the same order across these multiple sections. So looking at simply achievement by using a pre and post test scenario is that the students come in, knowing roughly a third of the material or being familiar with it. This is assessed on a multiple choice. And so this is about what you would expect, just randomly, right? They're going to get about 25% of the questions right. So maybe they're doing a little bit more than that. By the end of the semester, they're up into the 75, 80% range. So this is within a semester achievement, absolutely, right? So the courses are doing as we would hope in terms of delivering the content and allowing the students within that semester to demonstrate that they do have retention of that content. But that's not the only measure of success, especially in college. So what we also wanted to then look at is retention. So grade and retention is who is sticking out this class. So what I want to call out here is that we have, since we built this new pre-professional class, we have a large discrepancy between the DFW rate. So those that are earning Ds, Fs, or are withdrawing from the course before the course is actually over. What we see is a huge discrepancy. So this is where my mind started to roll, and this is where the research question was founded. Is why is there this discrepancy between 5% DFW rates year over year stability in this pre-professional class? That's an introductory biology course for one major, versus this 33% loss in the traditional mixed majors course. So again, we are a mix of instructors, right? So there's probably 8 to 10 of us over the last couple of years that have taught. We each bring a different pedagogy. We all are doing active learning strategies. We're all doing metacognition strategies. There's something that we're missing because we're not meeting these students. And so we are essentially challenged to then attack or go after this DFW rate. How do we allow these STEM students to actually succeed better in their courses? So this is the research premise that I'm going after. So again, looking more broadly, looking into the literature, we find that the active learning strategies, AAS Vision and Change, and then Freeman did a great study in 2014, a meta-analysis of several hundred studies, where yes, efficacy of active learning strategies is very, very important, especially for populations at risk. Then we also know that buy-in is going to vary. So if you're an applied scientist, some of the active learning strategies actually have caused students to recoil. So if it's an inquiry-based lab and you're an applied-based student, essentially students will step back and they will hate inquiry-based labs for the rest of their life. It's one of those things that we're certainly challenged with a mixed major course. And we see that cognition and metacognition are very important. So again, borrowing from educational psychology and looking at the National Survey for Student Engagement coming out of Indiana University, we know that there is impactful measures that we can demonstrate and utilize in the classes. And this is especially important for our communities of diversity. The third leg of this stool in terms of educational success for students is that, are they motivated to do this? What is motivating them? So work is now accumulating coming out of the disciplines of education and social work, as well as health and nutrition. So quite a broad breadth of academic disciplines are essentially accumulating work. That motivation of the person that you're trying to help and guide through the process really does matter. So the diverse audiences, especially a lot of the work has been done at-risk youth. We're seeing some coming out of charter schools, and also this concept of athlete performance and even nutrition. So you may have heard on the news, right, this concept of Noom, right, this dietary pattern where just by simply thinking about how we are our individual interactions with food, we can actually change our health. So can we then do that same thing on the educational pathway? So the instruments, again, I wanted to survey who are we actually, who am I working with? And so looking at the academic motivation scale and the intrinsic motivation inventory. These are published free out there and well certified instruments. And then probably what's more interesting is something that's more groundbreaking, which is the motivational interviewing. So this uses a principle called ORS. So it's open-ended questions, it's affirmations, it's reflective listening, and summary reflections. So this essentially, Reich et al. Shared their PowerPoint, and I used it in my class. And what we have is laying out the premise of why college is both challenging and effective, and also, kind of a grind. So this is something that it shocked students to have me present to them. Studying sucks. Why are you going to do it, right? So it's kind of, again, take that guide, that professor guide off of the relationship and just kind of connect with the students. So we talked about here the overall success rate for students coming into college and graduating in 5 years, right? So the national average is like 57%. So here we can say an affirmation. You're doing something unique by being in the seats, right? So by challenging yourself through a Zoom lecture, this is something that's unique. You should be, you should feel good about this. Then we get into financial rewards for students, right? So why go to college, right? So we see a national average, especially over the trajectory of a career lifespan, that students that complete college actually do quite a bit better financially in their life. And then we get into this reflective part where, studying is hard. Studying takes a lot of time. You got to work. We've got all these barriers, right? So let's talk about the barriers and how do we get those barriers out of the way so that students can actually succeed. So again, this intervention was done a couple of weeks ago by Reich et al. So getting into the digital survey and the convenience population, you'll see we did some demographic studies. We then looked at the academic motivation survey, taking 28 questions out of those on a 1 to 7 scale. The intrinsic motivation inventory, again, 22 questions, a 1 to 7 scale. Does this relate to me as a person, or is it not at all relevant to me? So again, a 1 to 1 scale, not relevant, all the way up to 7. This is very true of me, or it corresponds exactly to me. I utilized a convenience population for this study. Using 5 sections of intro biology lecture. In this case, Aurora University was all remote. So this was delivery via Zoom, essentially. 3 sections here, roughly 200 students were in the pre-professional programs. And 2 sections, myself teaching these 2 sections, were in the mixed majors courses. So recruitment actually was quite successful. I had 152 successful surveys. Again, what we see is this is largely freshmen because this is an introductory college biology course. We occasionally see upperclassmen that are either repeating the course for trying to get a higher grade, or are going to be going on to a graduate school, and so have later in their academic career chosen to add this to their portfolio as they're applying to graduate schools. So Chromebox Alpha, and what I want to do is use this slide as a way to talk about the types of motivation that we're talking about. So I want to start here with a motivation. I don't want to be here, and I don't care that I'm here. So unfortunately, there is a couple of those students in every population. Mom and dad sent me to college. I don't really care. And they're in my college biology class. And so you always run into some of these students. Luckily, it's a very, very small proportion. The students then fall into 2 major categories of intrinsic motivation or extrinsic motivation. So extrinsic motivation at a couple different levels is what this discipline does. Intrinsic motivation, I want to experience something new. I want to accomplish my professional goals. I want to gain knowledge. And then at the bottom, I'll get back into individual breakdowns of extrinsic later on as I'm talking about the results. And then the intrinsic motivation inventory comes into interest and enjoyment. I really love biology. I really love some aspect of biology. And so I'm in this class because of this. I'm good at biology, right? That's the competence. I have a choice. I'm choosing a career related to this. And then this pressure tension where, again, I'm being forced to do this. I find that this is hard for me, but I want to make somebody else happy. So there's this pressure and tension surrounding it. So then getting into the results. And so you'll see this format for the rest of the tables. So the survey population is in the upper left-hand corner. And so this is an analysis between the mixed majors and the pre-professional group. what you'll see here is that scrolling down to those subdivisions that are highlighted in gold or in brown. So brown I used for approaching significance in a traditional manner, and then gold being those that are highly significant in a traditional manner of 0.05. So here what we find is that there is large significant differences between the populations that are mixed majors and pre-professional. So we're finding here that the students that are mixed majors feel that they have a better choice or a broader choice of what they're going into. So again, being that they are maybe mixed majors, versus nursing. Their parents were like, you're going into nursing, take this class, take this track. Some of the students are echoing that they didn't really have much choice to do that. And then likewise, and this is probably not surprising, in terms of the pre-professional track, they're actually expressing that they have a lot more pressure to succeed in this or to take that professional track. Interest and enjoyment, again, in general, it's pretty high. And then here's I thought one of the more interesting things is students are reporting that on a 1 to 7 scale, no alignment, that a motivation, right, it's not there, right? They are motivated to do this. So we do see, again, this concept of a difference in motivation, at least in terms of how they're thinking about themselves in this space. Looking at females versus males, I thought it was probably fairly predictable that the males find themselves more competent, especially in the sciences. And then again, the females are actually showing that they have more pressure to do this major. And this may actually correlate back to the pre-professional program. Again, most of our nursing majors are female, so that may be tightly correlated. I haven't dug into that yet. When we get into interjected and identified external motivation, interjected is this is what these people do. I want to be part of that group eventually, but I will then study this to become part of that. But it's really somebody behind me pushing me into that. And again, we're finding that they do have quite a bit of difference, especially the females feeling more like this is something that they have little choice in, or they're actually being driven forward with. Identified, this is more, I am part of this group and this is what that professional group does, but I'm not fully into it yet, and I don't fully own the practices that are necessary to succeed in that manner. In terms of diversity, so ethnic diversity is, of course, of interest, especially at a Hispanic institution. Are we meeting the needs broadly of all the students? And I was relieved, actually, to find that in terms of my students and population, they did not differ on any category based simply on race. We see a mixed majors here. A minority of white, about a third of the population, and the rest of the population is actually mixed or of traditional minority populations. In terms of the overall Hispanic versus white, what we find here is, again, a little bit more of this external interjected. So for me, this was a little bit surprising that in this case, the white students actually felt more pressure that this was what somebody was telling them to do. I would have actually expected this to be opposite based on my own personal biases going in. And then there was a little bit of an interest here in terms of experience. Students really wanted to do this, right? They were jazzed about it. But again, the numbers here would suggest that it's on the no alignment, right? So actually, this isn't necessarily good because it's saying, I don't necessarily want this. And then finally, first generation versus non-first generation. Again, we're serving a lot of first generation students. Again, here the first generation students starting at the bottom. First generation students are feeling more pressure to come to college and succeed about that. Again, they're feeling also maybe correlated to this. This is what the successful college student will do versus actually owning it internally. But this is what I should be doing. Again, this was done in the survey was done in the first 3 weeks of the semester. And then in terms of competence, again, maybe not surprising, the first generation students felt that maybe they were a little bit out of their league or a little bit less competent in actually being able to succeed in biology. So my summary is that pre-professional students actually report lower choice and higher pressure to succeed. And this goes along with gender, females also reporting higher pressure, and first generation reporting higher pressure. But then we've got this concept of greater external motivation, especially interjected. This is what I should be doing versus I own this and this is what I want to do. And then in minorities versus white, no overall differences there. But when we take the data apart a little bit and look at Hispanic and Latinx, they're actually demonstrating a little more pressure in terms of their external motivation. So with that, that is my last slide. So thank you for your attendance, and I can take any questions at this time.
When you were talking about the kind of the reflection and the questions, was that done in the class or individually? I wasn't quite clear on that part.
Yes, thank you very much. So the question essentially centers around how was the motivational interviewing delivered? I used the exact same model that Reich et al. Had done, which was in a classroom setting. So one day in lecture, I basically took time aside or set time aside, and we walked through the discussion that Reich et al. Had laid out. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Will this teach or approach, the question coming in on chat is, will this change how you approach your colleagues teaching college biology? I think it will. I think the entire motivation for this is, thank you, Christopher, for the question, first of all, is that the DFW rate is less than what we were hoping for. And so what we want students to do is succeed, I think, regardless of any institution or any instructor. That's inherently, I think, why we teach. And so if we could then figure out how to reach these students that we're currently not reaching, there's some reason that they're falling through the cracks, essentially, in terms of these DFW rates. Some of that we know is preparation coming into college, but that does not relieve us of our duties. So in terms of what to do, I really need more data. I need to see if this is holding. I want to take a look at the second semester students because they are also seeing the same DFW rate. And so it's not necessarily just a maturity to college, because I see, even my own students, I start to congratulate them at this time of year because they're much different humans. they're beginning to become adults at this time of the year. Even 3 months has changed them a lot, and I want them to recognize that. And that is something that college shapes us. And so, going forward. Other questions?
So, hi, Dr. Martin, this is Ruby. Comment and a quick question. So, first of all, thank you so much for presenting this to us. And so in your survey, was there any component, for students to mention like a faculty role in how they are motivated to maybe take a biology course, or not, do well, or was there any component in that?
The question essentially is, what role do the faculty have in terms of motivation? This study specifically was looking very, very early in the semester. So essentially trying to get a handle on what are the students walking in with versus how the individual instructor may be able to change that trajectory. So
okay.
I think this is a really, really interesting question to come back later in the semester and say, did the individual instructor change? What we would suggest, or what the data would suggest over several years, is that it doesn't, because we have many instructors that have taught this course, and we see essentially the same DFW rate, regardless of who is actually in front of that room. So that's both encouraging and also discouraging. Because as instructors, we're and the pedagogy conferences. There's so many things that we can do to motivate students and help students out. And then you see something like this that, regardless of who's in the front of the room, it doesn't matter. So, you see both sides of that same coin.
Right.
Doesn't mean that we shouldn't still try, but.
Right. Now, I was gonna make a connection of that. You all, some of for my study, and I'm gonna be sharing abstract of that, with your and Dr. Dean. So I'm gonna be, because I think that is something I looked into. Hopefully, if we can sort of share some of those ideas. It's just my goal, going there. So I would be after today's conference. So hopefully we can.
I'll look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we've just been given 5 more minutes. So if anybody has additional comments or questions, advice, things that you've tried.
So in terms of the motivation then from what you present today, what do you think that is the strongest indicator that the student, like the strongest motivation indicator, the strongest motivation that the student will bring in the classroom that will make them successful?
Very good question. So essentially, if I'm interpreting it right, what are the students bringing? That's the key factor. And I think identity is actually very important. So, when the students are walking into this pre-professional nursing program, they immediately know that they are surrounded by colleagues, right? This is immediately a team. I literally, they will identify with every single person in that room as a pre-professional track. So regardless of what they came in with, interjected or otherwise, I think it immediately flips them into, I am now part of this cohort. I am now walking in stride with a team. So I think that's very, very powerful. The reason why, especially this semester, I'm seeing that Zoom is leading towards a little bit more isolation, students lacking that connection. So, maybe my answer would change in future years. But right now, I think, if you look at the national data, connection to either a professor or another student within that first couple of weeks is key to retaining that student over their entire college career. Did you connect with your professor? Did you connect with a student in your class? So this is where it's actually fun in the lab is like they latch on to lab groups and they connect that way. I'm not sure that we've got that here in this semester. So, but I think it's identity to answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, like I see that a lot with our pre-nursing students. I mean, they are very motivated. They know what they want. They know that they have to pass the class because they have to be admitted into the program, and they know that if they don't pass the class, they have to probably wait 1 year or So yeah, that per se is really important for them to succeed, and they are very disciplined, and they are very receptive, and they are very always on time, prepare. They usually don't lose deadlines. So yeah, I can see that. Kind of like maybe the pressure of fulfilling the requirements to be accepted into the program. So I think that, from what I see in the courses that I teach, I think that is a major, major component as well, which is in pair with what you are saying. They really know where they are going.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got another question. Thank you, Alma. Another question coming in on chat. Are the components of the survey used tied closely with retention? I'd have to look at the literature a little bit more in depth, but to my knowledge, identity, is highly correlated to retention. The ability to motivate externally can change trajectories of individual students. And I actually, again, all of the active learning strategies and things like that. But in terms of the actual surveys, I'd be limited to say that the survey specifically ties to retention. So a question that came in earlier was the number of, what majors essentially out of this mixed major pool are actually succeeding. I don't have enough data yet to support that. Because we are fractioned down to so many different disciplines. So I'm going to repeat the data and try to get at, are we seeing a specific subdiscipline or trajectory that's pre-identified by the student, leading towards lack of success, if nothing else. So, okay, so I've been given 58 seconds if you have any additional comments. Otherwise, I'm at wmartin@aurora.edu. I'd love to discuss further and work with you if that's where you see us going. So, okay, thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you. I just have an observation about people taking majors because someone else tells them to. Could that be at least that slice that someone thinks nursing will make money or these allied healths will make money, whether the kid has a propensity for that interest or not?
Yes, absolutely. You know, we see this again. A lot of students are going to be doctors and they just don't, it's not for them. You know, they don't even want it, right? But that's what they're telling us as we walk in. So
Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're now going to go for a lunch break or whatever you like to do for the next 45 minutes, and we'll reconvene. The next breakout sessions will start at 1 o'clock. We'll have the break room will be open throughout if you want to stop in there. Otherwise, we'll have the slide up indicating which rooms are at which breakout sessions are which sessions are in which rooms starting at 1 o'clock. I clearly need lunch. All right, take care, everybody.
Stephen?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, Alice.
Hi, we just presented in breakout room 5 and we were pulled out before I could stop recording. So I don't know if you can go back into, or Christine could go back into breakout 5 and stop the recording.
I'm sure we can do that. Yep, absolutely. Thanks,
Thank you
Allison.
so
Thanks for
much.
letting me know. Appreciate it. Thank you.